Did you ever wonder why Hitler, one of the most feared rulers of the 20th century, hated the Jews so much? What did he discover about them that made him want to wipe out an entire generation? Well, in today's video, I'll share the brief history of Adolf Hitler and the Jews. And you'll learn that if the Georgian people hadn't expelled them, and if Palestine hadn't given them refuge, the same situation happening in Gaza today could have happened in Germany. Let's begin. Friends, who doesn't know Hitler? Adolf Hitler is a name that has been one of the most talked about names in history since the 19th century. After the First World War, what he did to the Jews was so horrifying that even today, Jews tremble at the sound of his name. You might not believe this, but this man killed more than 6 million Jews. And not just that, he killed them so brutally that even hearing about it is enough to shake anyone. The reason behind this cruelty was his deep hatred toward the Jews. That's why he wanted to erase them from the world. At that time, people believed Hitler was a cruel man and an enemy of humanity. But in reality, he had no hatred for humanity in general. His sole enmity was with the Jews. That's why he wanted to erase every sign of them from existence. But the real question is, why did Hitler hate Jews so much? What made him believe that killing 6 million Jews was justified? To the world, Hitler was a mass murderer, a cruel dictator. But if you look from Hitler's perspective, he believed the Jews were a threat to his nation. When you hear the full story, you might start to believe that though Hitler's cruelty was wrong, his reasoning behind targeting the Jews was, according to him, justified. This story starts in 1914. In 1914, Adolf Hitler was serving as a German soldier. From the beginning, he wasn't just an ordinary soldier, he was brave and also very intelligent. When the Great War broke out in July 1914, Hitler fought on the battlefield for 4 years. Being sharp-minded, he kept an eye on the political and military movements around him. He closely observed everything happening. Back then, many Jews were involved in Germany's politics and military. Hitler grew suspicious of their actions. When the war ended, Germany had lost. Hitler was devastated by the defeat. Being a deep thinker, he couldn't accept how his country had lost despite its large army and resources. So he started investigating everything that happened during the war. From the beginning, he suspected the Jewish soldiers and several influential figures. When he analyzed the events, he concluded that the Jewish soldiers had betrayed Germany. He believed the Jews leaked military secrets to Russia. That's why every time the German army attempted a new strategy, Russia already knew and foiled their plans. In fact, Hitler believed these traitors even attacked German soldiers with poisonous gas on Russia's orders, causing the deaths of many. To him, these Jews were so ungrateful that they betrayed the very nation that had given them shelter and livelihoods. When Hitler discovered this betrayal, it shattered him emotionally. He vowed to take revenge. He saw the Jews as impure and dangerous. He believed that if they remained in Europe, especially Germany, they would destroy the German people. So he began warning the public about them. He convinced people to such an extent that thousands began supporting him. In 1933, during the German elections, people voted for Hitler and made him the Chancellor of Germany. Once in power, Hitler gained full authority. He was determined to bring the Jews under control at any cost. He believed that if he didn't act now, a time would come when the Jews would rule Germany. But the problem was that the Jews were deeply embedded in German society, and they were not easy to contain. When Hitler saw that peaceful control wasn't possible, he made a terrifying decision: to eliminate them from the root. He started building special killing centers in a German city called Chelmno. Jews were brought to these centers where they were either shot or locked in gas chambers where they died a slow and painful death. Their corpses were then loaded onto trucks and dumped in forests. Gradually, the number of killing centers increased, and the number of Jews being killed rose rapidly. These centers came to be known as death factories. Every day, thousands of Jews were brought to these death factories and slaughtered. Hitler's hatred was so intense that he didn't just want to eliminate Jews from Germany, he wanted to wipe them from the face of the earth. In just 2 years, Hitler had over 6 million Jews killed. Residents helped round up every Jew from across Germany and sent them to these killing centers. Hitler believed that if the Jews weren't exterminated, they would continue betraying the country. His stance was so firm that more than half the nation supported him. Believe me, if Hitler had lived longer, not a single Jew might have survived in the world. But in the end, he committed suicide and left the world. Even today, many label him as evil. But if you look at it technically, his perspective seemed right, at least to him. Yes, he committed horrific acts and massacred innocent lives. But imagine, if Jews were still in Germany, wouldn't Berlin have ended up like Gaza? Ironically, the president of Israel now says that Hitler didn't want to kill Jews, that he was misled by the Muslims. But now the whole world has realized the truth. These people are master manipulators and the biggest deceivers. They betrayed Germany, and when they came to Palestine, they turned against the very people who gave them refuge. After Hitler, the surviving Jews were dumped into Palestine by European countries like unwanted waste. Shockingly, these refugees who had come begging for shelter slowly began taking over Palestine. What happened next is exactly what Hitler feared. Today, they are doing the same to Muslims in Palestine that Hitler feared they would do in Germany. Their nature is betrayal. Honestly, this nation has been so unfortunate that Allah sent almost every prophet to them, but most of them refused to believe. They've always been misguided and continue to be. Now they've become so powerful that despite the whole world witnessing what's happening in Palestine, no one has the courage to stand against them. Especially Muslim countries, they are silent, watching the bloodshed as if it's nothing. Honestly, sometimes it feels like Hitler was better than the 52 Islamic countries combined. At least, he stood up against them. Today, it's clear that this nation is the world's biggest betrayer. Wherever they go, they loot and deceive. Now, they've even violated mosques. But still, Muslim countries sit idly by, hoping for another Hitler to be born so they won't have to lift a finger. Anyway, what do you all think about this? Do tell me in the comment box below. Let's see how many people still dare to speak the truth. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.